What's up everyone, my name's Robbie, this is Robbie Manila, and today we're talking about Wealthfront. So if you're watching this video, I am just going to assume that you know what Wealthfront is, but if you don't, for some reason, Wealthfront is a robo-advisor. And what is a robo-advisor, you might be asking? Well, think of it like this. A financial advisor helps you with asset allocation, helps you figure out how much money you should be saving into different accounts, like maybe college savings, how much you should be putting towards investing for retirement, all sorts of different things. Well, robo-advisor is a robotic way of basically doing that. So think of Wealthfront like a tech company that has an algorithm that's going to help you invest your money. So I hope you're ready for a deep dive into Wealthfront. So let's go ahead, let's roll the intro, and let's get started. Okay everyone, so before we open up this computer, please, pretty please, hit the like button. Okay everyone, let's start with the basics of Wealthfront. So first we have goal-based investing. And just like a financial advisor or a CFP would help you decide how much money to put towards retirement and whether or not you have enough money to buy a house or how much money to save for a house, save for your children's college, save for a bunch of different things, that is exactly what a robo-advisor like Wealthfront is supposed to do. And so essentially they break it down into goals, things like home ownership, for example, where you'll tell Wealthfront how much home you want to buy and they'll help you save towards that 20% down payment, for example, or early retirement. In the scenario, say you wanted to retire at age 54, it'll tell you how much you'll have to save. And so it's going to help you figure out a way to get to an earlier retirement based on what you want. There's also time off for travel. Say you want to take a whole year off, it's going to help you save towards that as well. Also, if you want to save for your children's education, Wealthfront is going to help you save for that goal also. For example, here it says sending Lisa to Stanford costs an estimated $392,000 by 2030. And so this is a goal-based approach to financial planning, and that is one of the great things about Wealthfront. So of course, the next thing everyone wants to know is it expensive? And the answer is it's not very expensive. It's 0.25% for the fee for all of your money with Wealthfront. Now you should keep in mind that this does not include the amount of money that comes off of the ETFs that they use in their investments. So you might want to add another maybe 15 basis points or 0.15% or 0.2% to this. So maybe in total with the fee that they charge plus the ETFs that might have a fee, it could be as much as a little bit over 0.5% total. So the next thing is the minimum. So there's a very small minimum with Wealthfront, $500. Now there's some important things that all robo-advisors should have, and one of those is automatic rebalancing and also tax loss harvesting. So those two things are really important because it's an automated type approach that most robo-advisors should be able to incorporate into their technology at this point. So if you're not familiar with rebalancing, think of it like this. Assume you have kind of a conservative portfolio of stocks and bonds. So 50% of your money is in stocks, the other 50% is in bonds. Let's say the stock market had a really good year, and because of that, your stocks are now 70% of your portfolio and your bonds are now 30%. Well, technically, if you wanted to have a 50-50 portfolio, you're taking more risk because now you have 70% in stocks, 30% in bonds. So by automatically rebalancing, Wealthfront will keep that 50% stocks, 50% bonds in your portfolio. So that target should always stay about the same. Now, tax loss harvesting is a way for you to reduce the amount of taxes on your portfolio. For example, if you just have a brokerage account that you pay taxes on, dividends, for example, that are paid via your stocks or your ETFs, then you're going to pay taxes on those during the year. Now, Wealthfront has a feature that allows tax loss harvesting. And so what that does is it will sell different stocks or ETFs at losses to lock in some losses that will offset on your tax return. So essentially you should pay less in taxes, and so this feature should almost pay for itself. So a few things that Wealthfront is missing that other robo-advisors do have: fractional shares. So you might have a little bit more cash in this portfolio than you would if you had like a Betterment account, because Betterment does have fractional shares available. There's no access to a financial advisor. So if you're someone who was hoping to have contact with someone within Wealthfront, that's not going to be there for you. that is with Betterment, but you do pay a fee for that. And the last thing is that there isn't as great socially responsible investing options here. There's a little bit of an option, but it's really not that great. So next we have the different accounts that are available. So they have taxable brokerage accounts, they have IRAs, individual retirement accounts, they have Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, joint accounts, trust accounts, and 529 plans, which are for college savings. And there's checking available as well. So there's a ton of different accounts available for you. Within Wealthfront, you're probably not going to have any problem finding what you want. So of course, everyone wants to know how Wealthfront decides what you're going to be invested in. So what they do is they do an asset allocation that's based on a profile, essentially a questionnaire that they ask you that figures out what your asset allocation is going to be. And so after your profile, you're going to come back with a risk score. And the risk score is going to be a number. And for example, here we have someone with a risk score of 8. And it's showing it last updated 3/31/2021. And it's showing, for example, the 1-year return of a taxable portfolio of someone with a risk score of 8 was 49.40. The 3-year return was 10.21, 5-year return since inception. And then they have the tax advantage portfolios, 44.4% for the 1 year, 10.39 for the 3 year, and so on. So you can kind of see that they have it broken down into taxable and non-taxable portfolios, and it's based on your risk score. So before I showed you a risk score of 8 and how the returns look, this is actually how the portfolio would be made up of someone with a risk score of 8. So for example, US stocks, 35% of the portfolio is in US stocks, 24% in foreign stocks, 16% in emerging markets, 8% in dividend stocks, and 17% in municipal bonds. There's no money in real estate, no money in tips, no money in US government bonds or emerging market bonds, and no corporate bonds. So that's a risk profile of 8. What if we go and say, what's a risk profile of 5 look like, for example? So we can go down and bring this over to 5, and we can see that a person with 5 has less risk, so they're going to have less money in stocks, more money in bonds. So here we see they have 26% in US stocks, 17% in foreign stocks, 11% in emerging markets, 11% dividend income, dividend stocks, and 35% in municipal bonds. Again, there's none of the other ones here. So you can always see some of the different portfolio makeups, and once you have a risk score, you're going to see what they're going to be offering to you. So everything I've talked about so far are standard things that come with Wealthfront, but this next thing, or these next 2 things, they're really for larger account sizes. So you should have at least $100,000 in an account to get access to these different things. So here we're going to highlight special investment strategies that Wealthfront does offer. And there's 2. One's called Risk Parity and one's called Smart Beta. So first, Risk Parity. And so you'll see the back-tested results of a portfolio from June 1st of 1996 to September 30th of 2017. The Risk Parity strategy had a return of 11.3%, and a 60/40 portfolio had 7.7%. And then if you look a little further down, you'll see the actual 60/40 portfolio underperformed by a lot, and then the Risk Parity portfolio really did a lot better over that time period. And so remember, the Risk Parity portfolio, it uses leverage to essentially get more return by reducing the amount of stocks and adding more bonds to the portfolio. Just another way of trying to get return by using leverage, which Wealthfront does with its algorithmic investing. Now, the next thing to talk about is Smart Beta. Now, to get the Risk Parity, you need to have an account balance of at least $100,000. This one, you actually need to have $500,000 or more to get Smart Beta. So Wealthfront believes that using certain factors can help you get a bit more return in your portfolio. Essentially, by investing in the best of some different stocks in these different factors or categories, they can help you get more return. So for example, if they look at just low beta stocks, the best of those, the best of the high dividend yield stocks, the best of the momentum stocks, etc., if they rank all of those and create their own portfolio based on that, they can get a bit more return on your investment than just buying the index. The way that they structure this thing, not to get into too many details, is they have the index. So let's say they have the S&P 500 index. but then they kind of overlay or essentially add a portion of the portfolio into the different factors. So instead of having all of your money in the S&P 500, for example, maybe they have 80% in the S&P 500 and 20% in a different strategy with these different factors. So that's what they say by overlay on top of the indexing strategy. Now, this smart beta strategy actually incorporates into something called stock level tax loss harvesting. So in Wealthfront's suite of different things that they offer to you, they have some different ways that they help you with tax efficiency. And one of those things is stock level tax loss harvesting. So what they do there is, instead of just putting money into like an ETF that tracks the market, when you have enough money with Wealthfront, they will create an entire portfolio of the market. So for example, the S&P 500 has 500 stocks in it. They'll recreate the whole entire portfolio by buying all 500 stocks in the S&P 500. So that way you have a better way of getting the same return as the index, and you can get stock level tax loss harvesting. So essentially what they can do is they can minimize the taxation on your account better than if you just had all your money in one like ETF or index fund. Another final way the Wealthfront can help you with tax efficiency is by something they call asset location. And so think of it like this. So let's say you can have a brokerage account that's taxable and you can have an IRA. So you have two different accounts. Maybe you want to have your bonds in your taxable account. But if you do that, the interest that those bonds generate, and let's assume they're like government bonds, the interest that comes off is probably going to be taxable income to you, or potentially it will be. So you might have to pay taxes on the interest that comes off of the bonds. But if instead of having bonds in a brokerage account that's taxable, you had your bonds inside the IRA, you don't have to pay tax on the interest every year because it's in the IRA. It's a better tax advantaged account for bonds. So essentially, they take the right asset classes, stocks, bonds, municipal bonds, different types of stocks, stocks that pay high dividends, stocks that are growth stocks that don't pay dividends, and they put the correct ones into the correct accounts. And so essentially what they're doing is they're just trying to put a more tax efficient asset class into the correct account for you. And hopefully by doing that, you'll pay less money in taxes, and hence you'll have more money and more return going forward into the future. So I think that's all we have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And by the way, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think about robo-advisors? You love them? Are you using them? You think they're gonna replace financial advisors one day? Let me know. And if you wanna watch my video on Betterment, I'm gonna go ahead and put a link in the description below. And if you wanna watch my video comparing Betterment to Wealthfront, the very first video I've ever made on this channel, I'll also put a link to that as well. And please hit another one of my videos on the end screen that's actually coming up right now.